Welcome. I'm so glad you came. I'm Salvador Gutierrez, and I'm honored that you've decided to spend the next 45 minutes with me learning how to take your company to the next level. It is my intention to change the way you do business forever. Before we get started, make sure you're either watching this on a laptop or desktop, somewhere you can sit down. I promise you'll get so much more out of this. As what you focus on tends to expand, it is my goal that you should focus on expanding your business, not your notifications. So if you're still watching this on your phone, just copy the link on the top of this page, or bookmark it, then open it on your desktop. Also, if you've already registered, we have sent you an email with the link to this video so you can open it from there. There's a lot of ground to cover. To get the most out of this, make sure you have a pen and paper handy, or some way to take plenty of notes, as you will now get insights on things that you can implement immediately for your company. As is not only my intention to entertain you, but to educate and empower you, please be active in the chat, as I'm going to ask you to type in it from time to time. The more you interact with this webinar, the more insights you will get, and the faster you'll see change in your life. At the end of this video, you will also have the opportunity to schedule a live Q&A where we'll answer questions on applying these principles to your business and explore the best path of building your high-performing teams that you now want. So, with the housekeeping out of the way, let's jump in. I would like to start with a survey. Who here wants to make more money? Type, oh yeah. Who here wants that money made for them by other people? Now, if you're watching this and you have a business partner watching with you, and you see that their hand went up and yours didn't, you should be paying attention. Who here wants the certainty that we're going to thrive even with the economic turmoil that's happening? Let's face it, caffeine and blind optimism alone won't carry you through turbulent times. It doesn't matter what industry or economic climate, uncertainty is the only constant. Now picture leading your company with such clarity, such confidence, that you are consistently choosing the right people and empowering them to take the right actions. It's about surrounding yourself with capable leaders, delegating smartly, and focusing your time solely on high-impact decisions. This mastery empowers you to steer through any challenge with ease. It might feel like it's impossible. You might feel like you're a small fish in a massive ocean. Well, today we're going to change that narrative. We're going to transform you into a dominant force, a shark in your industry, even if you currently only feel like an ambitious goldfish. And it all starts with one fundamental, timeless question. Why do some teams outperform while others consistently underachieve? I got to see this question in action early in my career. I had an accidental client, my plumber. He had been with me through all my real estate adventures, handling every plumbing issue across my flips and rentals. On the surface, he worked for a successful business where everything seemed to run smoothly. But behind the scenes, it was one man holding it all together. Whenever a tech dropped the ball, he was the one that was cleaning up the mess. Whenever a homeowner got frustrated, he was the one calming them down. Whenever a project fell behind, he was the one burning the midnight oil. One day, while replacing one of my sinks, he asked me, "How did you make the leap from a W-2 to owning your own business?" You see, for years, the owner of the plumbing company promised him a partnership, dangling out in front of him, always just out of reach, always saying, "Just put in a few more hours and we'll make it happen." But every time my guy asked about it, the owner avoided the conversation. The breaking point came when he discovered that he was being underpaid. The owner had been skimming a percentage off of his commission sales. And when he confronted him, instead of taking responsibility, the owner blamed him for the company's struggles. That's when he realized there was no future here. That's when he realized he needed to talk to me. It only took a few short months working with me, and when he felt ready, he took the leap. Without him holding everything together, the company went into panic mode. A swath of other technicians left as well. Clients started choosing other alternatives, and the bottom line shrunk fast. They threw everything they had to fix it, putting employees together, trying old strategies, hoping for a miracle. But instead of solving the real problem, they were caught up in uncertainty. Questions kept showing up in the workplace. Who's in charge now that he's gone? Does the extra work come with extra pay? How are we going to split the territories? Is it okay to challenge someone else's idea? What are the rules now? On the surface, it looked like collaboration, but underneath, it was inefficiency, hesitation, and competition. The team spent more time managing and negotiating status than solving the real problem. They needed more clients. There was no alignment, no leadership, no culture. The infrastructure wasn't built to sustain itself, and it depended on one person. And when that person was gone, so was the company. My friend, he built something better. He realized the previous owner had built a business around himself, not around a group culture. Culture was going to be the core of his company. At first, his new business looked disorganized. He didn't have a unique selling proposition. He was not niched down and did any and every job available. His hours were all over the place and his truck wasn't even branded. He was juggling all the stressors of leadership while relying on friends and family for admin work. If you looked at him from the point of view of the company rather than the business owner, the collective behavior was efficient and effective. Instead of chasing quick fixes or thinking about the easiest job, he focused on what was right for the client and the team. He, his wife, and his network worked shoulder to shoulder and were having fun while doing it. They moved fast, experimented, and kept improving. And it worked. It wasn't because he was smarter than his old boss. It wasn't because he had the network of his old company. It was because he worked in a smarter way. Write this down. Your success has nothing to do with being smarter or having more resources. Your long-term success depends on how deeply you know yourself, how well you understand others, and how effective you are in communicating and engaging them. Think about it. Everything you want in life comes from other people. Your company relies on vendors, partners, employees to create and distribute your products and services. Yet many business owners are caught up in the product itself, forgetting that without agreements, distribution, marketing, there is no business. It doesn't matter how great your service is. If you can't communicate it compellingly, it won't sell. It doesn't matter how amazing your company culture is. If you can't represent it well, no one's going to work with you. Nothing sells itself. Nothing compels on its own. Success is built on communication. And I know for some of you, the thought of communicating or selling or influencing might make you feel uncomfortable. I don't want to manipulate anyone. I don't want to force someone to do something they don't want to do. That's the narrative, right? A perfect example of this can be found in sales. How many of you have heard that you just need to get enough no's till you get a yes? Type me. How many of you have heard that rejection is an issue you just need to get over? It's just a numbers game. Who here realizes that if you're shooting for a no, you'll get more no's in your life? If you want to get yeses, you must get more yeses in your life. Who here has been told that you're not suited for sales or you need to change your personality to succeed? I was once told that the only way for my company to succeed is if I became like Steve Jobs. Now you may notice I'm not wearing a turtleneck. I'm not here to say you don't need to change. I am saying you don't need to change who you are. You need to change how you communicate. Steve Jobs did not build Apple alone. His success was fueled by this partnership with Steve Wozniak, who wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but he knew how to communicate in his authentic way. He loved to speak in technical terms. Communication doesn't have to look one way. Your personality shapes how you naturally connect, persuade, and lead. And just as your style of communication is unique, so are the needs of those you work with. In fact, what's normal language for one person can be called passive-aggressive to another. Write this down. Wealth follows communication, not the other way around. If you're still skeptical, you can look it up. Public speaking is the highest paid profession in the world, yet most people would rather die than step on stage. Why? Because the one powerful emotion that holds them back. They submit to it, letting it dictate their outcomes. It's the same emotion that's been stopping you from getting everything you want in life. What is the emotion I'm talking about? Drop it in the chat. That's right, fear. Fear wears many disguises. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. I'll do it when I'm ready. I'll start hiring once the economy gets better, or as soon as I get that contract. Other times it shows up as complacency. Well, we made 6 figures last year. Maybe we should be grateful for what we got this year. And for some, it's paralysis, meaning you or your team know exactly what to do, but you can't get yourself to take consistent action. Now let me ask you, who here genuinely wants to create a legacy? And who here wants to live their legacy while they leave a legacy? Who here is willing to work hard while making that legacy? Type in the chat. I love that. Most people don't live the life they truly want. They settle for what they believe they're allowed to have. And that's the most dangerous internal conflict of all. Now, I recognize that you are not most people. I could tell that you take action and don't allow fear from stopping you. Here are the 3 things you need before you can build a highly effective team to live that life. The 3 tools that puts your company on a growth track so fast, you'll feel magic. The first principle of building a high-performance team is self-mastery. Because before you can lead others, you must lead yourself. Supernatural growth does not come from understanding alone. It comes from execution. But let's be clear, without a deep understanding, you cannot have self-mastery. In short, self-mastery is the ability to have complete and control over your thoughts. Because thoughts lead to actions, and actions create the results, your thoughts are the reason for the results that you are living in right now. If you don't have control over your thoughts, how can you expect to lead a company? How can you inspire and motivate others when you yourself are out of control? Now, for many of you, this may feel like an uncomfortable conversation. Salvador, why are you talking to me about me when you should be taking action and talking about how I should hire or how to whip my current employees into shape? And I get it. I get that. But before you can lead and inspire others, you need to take care of your first employee. You. And it all starts with accepting full responsibility. The moment you take responsibility for your thoughts, you take control of your actions. And the moment you take control of your actions, you take control of your business. Write this down. Who you are to you is shaped by your thoughts. Who you are to others is shaped by your actions. This is an essential part because it's one of the main keys to understanding personality dynamics and achieving amazing partnerships and highly effective teams. I'm sure you've seen this in action. Imagine your company, after months of searching, you make a hire. They seem promising, they say the right things, they have all the right skills, so you invest in them. You train them, introduce them to the team, and trust they'll be an amazing asset in the department or project you place them in. And it doesn't matter which client or project they're working with, it starts super optimistic. The first few meetings go well, and everyone is excited about where it's going. After a bit, things start to get a little misaligned. And now the project's slightly off track. A couple meetings in and things get worse. The team is misaligned with themselves. Something isn't clicking. The results aren't there. Misunderstandings and mistakes pile up, and tension grows. And no matter how cool the client or project is, no matter how amazing the kickoff or your team is, they're now disengaged. They want to do other things, and your client's upset. And you're over budget. Looking at it, eventually due to personality clashes or just cash flow issues, you have to let them go. Now imagine you settle down into the exit interview, you sit down, their team lead looks your hire in the eye and says, "You are the worst decision I ever made. You've completely unqualified. We should never have hired you. Because of you, we lost the contract. One of our best customers as well. You will never exceed anywhere else. Don't even bother asking for a recommendation. Now get out of here." Do you feel that? There's no one even there. But you can feel the energy sucked out of the room. Imagine if your team lead had every reason to say that. What would that do to the remaining employees that are overhearing this? Would they feel valued and motivated to contribute? Or would they start questioning their own security in the company? Negativity is contagious. A toxic work environment doesn't just hurt one individual, it spreads. It festers, it causes distrust, it kills engagement. It accelerates your turnover. What about the person who's fired? Studies show that people tend to become what they believe others see in them. So if somebody told them they're a failure or a jerk or lazy all the time, chances are they're going to start living up to that expectation. Not just in your company, but in the next job or the one after that. But I had to fire them. Their poor performance drags down the entire team. Hey, you're right. Researchers from University of South Wales found that one disengaged employee can reduce the overall team performance by 30 to 40%. In fact, Gallup confirmed this by showing that disengaged employees cost companies 34% of their salary in lost productivity last year alone. I want you to see what that looks like for your company. Take your NOI and add 34% to it. What would that do for your life? What would that extra money do to your pocket? So why does this keep happening? Well, it's not my job. Employees don't like to take ownership of the issue. They're waiting for leadership, HR, or an external consultant to come and step in. Hey, I'm still getting paid. There's no issue here. Oddly, this behavior is incentivized as it allows people to drag projects on, meaning more billable hours and no urgency to fix the problem. It's just the cost of doing business. Oh, I've heard this so many times. It's just simply accepted. Now, many of us have been fired this way before, not just from our jobs, but from opportunities, relationships, or even our dreams. And the worst part, sometimes we're not even fired by a person. We're fired by lack of support, clear expectations, or the right skill sets to succeed. And we internalize it. We carry that stress, that identity into every part of our lives, at work, at home. in every relationship we have. I want you to realize that so many parts of your life are programmed in that way. How many realize that you have programs around leadership, selling, responsibility, what you think is possible? And those beliefs, those programs weren't built overnight. And I also want you to know that we have programs that help us as well. A little while ago, I asked all of you, and you agreed, that if you're willing to work hard, for every group that's falling apart, there's another that's resilient no matter the pressure, no matter the stress. That's what a high-performance team is. You can't hire them. They're not to be found. They're built. And the difference is leadership. There are teams that continue producing at high level even when there's a bad apple thrown in the mix, because within those teams there are people of character who shift the energy, diffuse the tension, and keep the group focused on solutions. Now imagine before that disastrous firing, before things spiraled out of control, at the first sign of friction, someone in your team steps in, not with aggression, not with frustration, but with an easy smile. Body language and tone that takes the tension right out of the room. Instead of reacting emotionally, they keep the team engaged. They ask questions. They draw others out. They listen intently, not just waiting to respond, but genuinely hearing what's being said. And when your team is back on track, they turn to your new hire and say, "Let's go for a walk." They spend some time building rapport and then ask two simple but powerful questions. The same questions I've seen make more money for organizations than anything else. First, what do you want? And second, what's the hardest thing about being you? These questions do something profound. They instantly shift the interaction and create a potentially unsafe, unstable environment into one that feels solid and secure. After he intently listens, he says, "Well, if that's what you truly want, here's what we're going to do to help you achieve that. We have all the tools you need, and these are the steps to be successful in this company. The best part? I'll be here to support you every step of the way. I'm so excited to work with you." Who here believes that if you work with an employee in that way, that employee will drastically be different in your company, no matter how they acted in previous careers? Who here thinks that you could use more of this in other aspects of your life? Imagine the turning point it will be for them and for your company. It's not about talent, it's not about intelligence, it's about self-mastery. Because before you can lead others and inspire action and create alignment, you need one critical skill: the ability to communicate, both internally and externally. In my 2-day intensive, when you invite me, and I hope you do invite me, I'll come to your workplace live and we'll go deep into this and the following principles and show you the practical application of this. I will show you how to get you and your team so used to it that it'll come out naturally. The second principle for building highly effective teams is understanding and aligning your team. A company is not just a collection of individuals, it's a system of relationships. And when you truly understand how your team operates, you can align their strengths, close gaps, and create an ecosystem where leadership and execution, accountability happen naturally. This is where most businesses fail. They see people as fixed assets instead of developing them into fully owning their role. Your team isn't meant to stay where they are. Your job as a leader isn't to force people into predefined roles. It's to guide them into who they are capable of becoming in a way that aligns with their natural abilities. Even in an era of AI, automation, and outsourcing, business at its highest level is still built on people. And no matter how independent your team works, success at the highest level still requires collaboration, alignment, and trust. Which reminds me, I haven't really introduced myself. As I said before, my name is Salvador Gutierrez. I am a certified business coach and hypnotherapist, and an expert in partnerships, taking action, and creating systems for success. Now, have I always been an expert? No. In fact, when I started my business, I made every mistake in the book. I even wrote a few chapters. But that's how you learn, by messing up and figuring out how not to do it again. In my lifetime, I've closed businesses, retained my family through bankruptcy, threats, health issues, lawsuits, and a myriad of uncertainty. I've documented what I've learned from these trials while seeking out solutions with a passion. How many of you would love to learn from multi-million-dollar mistakes so you don't have to pay millions to learn that? Who here would benefit from learning from a system of principles that have helped increase some businesses' NOI by over 700%? I used to work 13-hour days as a manufacturing chemist. I realized, like many of you, the only way of getting your dream of seeing your family and living the life you want is to become a business owner. I started a real estate company and invested in properties. We also ran a property management company, and the fleet grew from condos to homes to complexes, and at some point I was able to leave work and work for myself full time. Yet despite my hard work, I was still working the same hours to create a future where I could be with my wife and children rather than spending the time to see them now. It got so bad that in order to see me, my family started doing flips alongside me. Then tragedy struck. One evening, my daughter Hannah came to me. She was tired and wanted to sleep by me. She'd been working late into the night raking leaves and was not feeling well. The next morning, I turned over and saw a blue corpse, unable to breathe. I rushed her to the hospital and then an ambulance ride and finally a flight to Primary Children's Hospital. I followed my daughter into surgery where she was dealing with multiple organ failure. Over the next 2 weeks, everything fell apart. Project stops, debt collectors called, lawyers threatened lawsuits, and a business partner felt like it was the perfect time to cut me out of the LLC, taking my seed money with him. My company ground to a halt, and my life did too. I remember in the PQ, I was hiding in the bathroom, whispering into a phone, trying to not interrupt a surgery going on just outside. I was begging a creditor for more time as he tried to foreclose on another property that was already under contract for sale. All the while, the doctors were pounding at the door to get my approval for another emergency procedure. I asked myself, what am I doing this for? Why did my company fail? I thought I had done everything right. I had set it up correctly. I found the right people. Their credentials were perfect. Yet still, I was losing everything. Worst of all, I was losing my daughter before I made the time to even get to know her. I realized in my ignorance that I caused this. I didn't understand people and, most importantly, how to vet their intentions. I didn't know how to communicate, motivate, or inspire them. What's the cost of a bad partner, a bad employee? For me, it was 10 years worth of work, my retirement, and almost my daughter. When we finally got her out of the hospital, I shut everything down. I sold what I could. I laid my employees off and went back to square one. And I made a decision. I was going to learn the one thing that could have saved my family, my business, and my sanity. How to build a team that works. I spent the next few years obsessed with this. Why do some companies and some have teams that thrive while others collapse? Why do some leaders create high performance while others create chaos? Why do some businesses scale effortlessly while others stay stuck in survival mode? I invested in masterclasses, masterminds, seminars, mentors, coaches, you name it. I even trained in companies that advise multi-million-dollar industries. And I realized something. Success isn't about strategy. It's about people. Unless you know how to connect, empower, and inspire people, you'll miss the ones who co-dream with you. Instead, you'll only attract the fair weather friends as employees and clients. The corporate mercenaries who stick around just when it's easy and disappear when it matters most. Consider this. People don't stay loyal to a company. They stay loyal to a community, a shared vision. That's how you get teams as are invested as you are. And there are some underlying principles that create and govern high-performing teams. These principles are universal, whether you're a restaurant chain trying to motivate teenagers to show up, a developer struggling with quiet quitting, or a direct sales leader trying to reignite the fire in your team. Maybe I should redo that one.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, if you ever mess up, I like that.
I spent the next few years obsessed with this. Why do some teams thrive while others collapse? Why do some leaders create high performance while others create chaos? Why do some businesses scale effortlessly while others stay stuck in survival mode? I invested in masterminds, classes, seminars, mentors, coaches, you name it. I even trained with companies that advise multi-million-dollar industries. And I realized something. Success isn't about strategy, it's about people. Unless you know how to connect, empower, and inspire people, you'll miss the ones who co-dream with you. Instead, you only attract the fair weather friends as employees and clients, the corporate mercenaries who stick around when it's easy and disappear when it matters most. Consider this. People don't stay loyal to a company, they stay loyal to a community and a shared vision. That's how you get teams that are as invested as you are in your company. There's an underlying rule and principles that create and govern high-performance teams. These principles are universal, whether you're a restaurant chain trying to motivate teenagers to show up, a developer struggling with quiet quitting, or a direct sales leader who's trying to reignite the fire in their team. Once you understand these principles, everything changes. I restarted my business with these principles, and now My business is taking off. I see my family, not just on the weekends. I live the life of my terms, and I have the freedom that comes from being truly present. Now, I get it. Many of you are stuck not because you aren't working hard, but because you've hit a ceiling of time, resources, or growth. You've read the books, you've taken the courses, you've done everything right to stabilize your business. If you're not growing, the challenge is not with your systems and strategies, it's how effective you are at connecting, empowering, and inspiring people. And the key is simple. Understand what truly drives them. Because every person has a unique motivation that compels them to take action, a distinct communication style of how they connect with others and want to be connected with, and action drivers of how they approach decisions and follow through. Once you decode this, everything changes. People self-motivate, teams self-correct, businesses scale supernaturally. There are all sorts of systems designed to figure out personalities and their mix and how they work in your organization. There's lots of places happy to do tests and surveys for your people and tell you, hey, this person will do great in finance, that person will excel in sales. The challenge is businesses aren't built like puzzles. You can't just shuffle people around and expect magic. To implement their suggestions that most of these companies provide, you need to either do a full reorganization, moving people into positions they don't want to be in, or they're recommending you change your entire organization to fit your employees, both of which are ridiculous. You can't scale if your company changes for every new hire. It's like moving walls in a house every time someone moves in or out. Instead of forcing your organization to fit the employees, we reverse engineer your process so that your employees fit the framework of your organization's vision. Here's how it works. First, you must be able to identify who they are and how they naturally act. We've partnered with 2 industry-leading companies that specialize in personality analysis and behavioral insights. They provide the data. But data alone won't create high-performing teams. That's where we go beyond. We don't just interpret results, we engineer transformation. I love showing you not only the science behind how this works, but how to seamlessly integrate it into your systems to create a culture of leadership that scales effortlessly. Because high-performing teams aren't found, they're built. When you apply these insights correctly, it doesn't matter what happens. You don't just get compliance, you get ownership. That's when your business becomes unstoppable. When companies like yourself are having challenges with team dynamics, they partner with us to work with struggling teams. Our coaches ask 2 questions to assess the issue. 1, is your team consistently hitting the goals that produce results? And 2, when challenges do arise, do they work together seamlessly or do conflicts and inefficiencies slow them down? The second question probes if there's a personality mismatch. Charlie Group did research that showed that if 2 people are similar in personality, the ability to have one influence the other was 82%, meaning that they're influenced to a yes or buying decision if their personalities matched. Compare that to an 18% chance that they weren't. And I'm sure this makes sense. If you're saying the exact things that they need to hear to unlock a yes, leading an effective team is easy. I'm certain you've experienced the opposite as well. Have you ever met someone who just rubbed you the wrong way? Or worked with someone who took everything you said as a sign of disrespect or challenge? If there is a conflict in your team, remember, it's often not personal. It's personality. Learn their personality communication and see the friction melt and productivity explode. The first question is very eye-opening. I often hear clients saying that they're just sick of having to go around HR and handle personnel problems themselves. Let's say I give you your dream. Everyone in your team is getting along. You have a great company culture. In fact, Glassdoor is giving you out 5-star reviews as if you're a resort in Cabo. But if your team is getting results like they're on vacation, that's a death sentence. If your team struggles to get things done, the issue isn't communication. It's how they naturally take action. Every person has an instinctive approach to problem solving. And when the roles don't align with their natural strengths, you get friction, inefficiency, and ultimately, burnout. The key is understanding these action drivers. When necessary, that means realigning responsibilities so that each team member works in a way that feels natural. But the point is that it is by making it easier to perform at their best to get results. The biggest challenge here is that most teams cannot see the real issue, only the symptoms. Remember when I said earlier that who you are to yourself is shaped by your thoughts? That's personality. Who you are to others is shaped by your actions. That's your action driver. Imagine you have a brilliant, detail-oriented team member who triple checks everything, plans meticulously, and ensures that nothing slips through the cracks. Sounds great, right? But ask them to make a quick decision on the spot, and they'll freeze. Tell them, I need you to wing this. They agree, and then you see them immediately go into researching instead. Not because they're not capable, but because that's not how they're wired. Now picture another team member, a big picture thinker, a fast mover, full of ideas. They thrive in uncertainty. But give them a structured, repetitive task, and they'll check out completely. The power of action drivers is that it identifies how people approach problems, take action, and execute. If you don't understand how your team is wired, you will always be fighting friction. But when you understand your team at this level, you can guide and motivate them more effectively, predict conflicts before they arise, and create a team that runs seamlessly. You don't need to fix your team. You need to train, empower, and challenge them to grow. We've covered a lot of ground already. By now, you understand that the key to high-performing teams isn't just about hiring the right people. It's about creating an environment where they step into the higher versions of themselves. So, for the final piece of the puzzle, most companies stop identifying who someone is today. We take it further. We show them who they need to become. Because success isn't about skill or strategy, it's about growth. Think about your own journey. At some point, you weren't the leader you were today. You had to grow into that role. And the moment you committed to that growth, everything changed. Your team is no different. This is where leadership systems fail. They either expect employees to already be at the level that they need to be, or they try to force people into roles they don't really fit in. Or they avoid the conversation altogether, hoping things just work out. None of these create high-performance teams. That's why we created a method I call the chair. A simple yet powerful way to reverse engineer success in every role. Instead of changing people or changing your company, you create the chair, a clear framework of what Okay, here we go. That's why we created a method I like to call the chair. A simple yet powerful way to reverse engineer success in every role. Instead of changing people or changing your company, you create the chair, a clear framework that outlines the character traits that are needed to excel in the role. What actions and behaviors define success, and how they need to think, communicate, and operate at that level. When someone steps into that chair, they know exactly what's expected of them, and they either rise to the occasion or naturally opt out. Suddenly, promotions aren't vague. They aren't about office politics or waiting for an opportunity. Your team members know exactly what to do to step into their dream role. And that's one powerful shift in responsibility. Most companies get it wrong. They promote based on performance, but they don't train for leadership. They assume that just because someone excels in one role, they'll automatically succeed in the next. I feel I should tell you a story that may cause you to feel some deja vu. I was pulled into a company that had made this exact mistake. They had an amazing salesperson, one of the best in the industry. Every year, he crushed quotas so naturally that others just couldn't figure out how to keep up. The owners promoted him as sales manager. To build the team, they scalped 3 sales reps from a wholesaler company. And suddenly, the team was struggling. Sales were plummeting, and his confidence dropped. For the first time in years, he wasn't winning. He had been the company's secret weapon, closing deal after deal, hitting record-breaking sales. Then suddenly, everything changed. He wasn't closing anymore. He wasn't winning. Instead, his entire livelihood depended on others. And his team, they weren't just underperforming, they were failing. Now, instead of being the company's greatest asset, he was their biggest liability. He was lost, frustrated, overwhelmed, feeling completely powerless over his own success. And the worst part, he was one conversation away from being fired. The company kept tweaking the system, scripts, lead intake, offer prices, but nothing worked. See, the problem wasn't the system. It was a role without a chair. What makes someone a great salesperson does not make them a great manager. Instead of closing deals, our struggling manager was suddenly expected to coach and motivate underperforming reps, handle team conflict while balancing morale, and think strategically, not just tactically, and communicate that strategy in a way that inspires cooperation. He was also now in charge of enforcing a culture that was never clearly defined in the first place. Without these skills, the entire team was burning out. The company called me as a last-ditch effort to save the situation. And that is where I learned the worst part. After interviewing the manager, I discovered that he'd never even wanted that promotion in the first place. He loved selling, he thrived at it, but now he was facing termination for a role he never asked for. When I asked him what he truly wanted, he admitted, I always wanted to be a regional manager. He loved the idea of leading multiple locations, driving expansion and overseeing operations at scale, but at the time, that wasn't even a role that was even on the company's radar. And that's where the real problem was. There was no clear path to get there. At first, he saw the sales manager role as a career-ending obstacle that took him away from what he truly loved. But when we reframed it, when he realized that it wasn't an obstacle, but an opportunity, instead of resisting the role, he saw it as a stepping stone, a chance to develop the leadership skills he needed for the job that he actually wanted. When he mapped out his growth plan, for the first time, he was excited again, because now he had the tools. This is why leadership development isn't optional. If you don't align personnel motivation with company goals, you'll get disengagement. If you don't define the role, you'll get inconsistency. But if you don't give the right tools, you'll get burnout. But if you create the chair so that they can align their growth with the company's needs, you'll get a leadership pipeline. You'll create certainty in your teams, and you'll eliminate the chaos of culture drift. And most importantly, you'll create a business that scales without leadership breakdowns. When you're clear on the chair and you align your team's motivations to your company goals, they naturally develop character traits needed to excel in any role. This is how you create advocates in your company at any level. They don't wait to be told what to do, but instead take the responsibility for their own growth. They ask themselves, who do I need to become to own this role? What traits do I need to develop? What do high performers at this level do differently? This isn't about changing who people are. It's about inspiring anyone to become any role in their authentic way. When you get this right, growth becomes automatic, because when people understand their future potential, they become naturally motivated to step into it. Now we've covered self-mastery and team alignment. Let's talk about the most important part of how to make this last. How do we make it part of your company's DNA? The third principle for building highly effective teams is creating a scalable leadership culture, or SLC. You can have the best hires, the best structure, or even the best systems, but if your culture is weak, even if you hire our team to get yours aligned, it's only a matter of time before your company reverts back to square one. As I hope you've already seen, the most successful companies aren't the ones that are built on the best individual talent. They're the ones where people take ownership, self-motivate, and drive results. And when you create that kind of culture, it attracts quality people into your company and repels those bad apples who would use you. So how do you actually build an SLC? It's not unlimited snacks, casual Fridays, or foosball tables in the lunchroom. Harvard Business School studied over 200 companies for 3 years and found that those that the highest performing teams consistently focused on 3 things. They created an environment where people felt secure enough to take risks and perform at the highest level. They created space where people openly discussed challenges and asked for help. Look, strong teams aren't built on perfection, they're built on trust. And when leaders admit mistakes and employees feel safe to do the same, collaboration and innovation explode. They established a purpose to a bigger vision that drives motivation. People don't stay loyal to a company, they stay loyal to a mission. High-performance teams know exactly why their work matters and how it connects to the bigger picture. This is why leadership isn't about control. It's about creating conditions where success happens naturally. And when you apply these 3 principles, leadership isn't something you have to enforce. It happens in every level of your company. Companies that built a culture of safety, shared vulnerability, and clear purpose increased net income by 756% over 11 years, on average. That wasn't due to some complex strategy. They simply created conditions for success. This is why culture isn't just nice to have. It's a foundation for long-term success. If you want your business to grow without burnout, chaos, or leadership breakdowns, you need an SLC. Wow, the time has flown. And who here has learned a lot? Who here loves this stuff? I hope you realize that growing your company isn't difficult, it's different. Building high-performance teams isn't hard, it's just a new way of thinking. At this point, you have two choices. Keep doing what you're doing, putting out fires, losing good people, and hoping things will improve, or take the fast, intelligent path, installing a proven system that turns your team into self-sustaining, high-performing machine. Most businesses never scale because they're stuck in leadership babysitting mode, constantly stepping in and fixing problems and making decisions their team should be making themselves. If you want to exit that cycle and finally build a business that grows without you, I'd love to talk to you about our 2-day intensive. This is a live in-person training at your workplace where I teach and implement the workshop with everything you've covered today, customized for your industry and team. You'll get hands-on coaching and real-time solutions tailored to your business. We'll assess your team's strengths and communication styles using 2 personality assessments. Your team will develop leadership habits on the spot, so changes will start happening immediately. Who here realizes that live interactive coaching is far more powerful than a pre-recorded webinar? Who wants this badly? Now, there are some things we ask you before applying to join this program. There's really just 3 things. 1, you must believe in the power of investing in your high-performance teams. We're not here to convince anyone that investing into your employees is to create strong, self-sufficient teams is valuable. If you're debating whether scalable leadership and team alignment is worth investing in, we're just not the right fit. We want to work with leaders who learn and know that team dysfunction is a roadblock and they're ready to fix it. 2, you must be willing to implement these strategies in the next 3 months. If you're thinking about optimizing your team someday, this isn't for you. This program is for those who want real results fast. If you're already ready to take action to restructure your leadership programs and start seeing immediate improvements, then this is a perfect opportunity for you. Lastly, you need to be ready to do the work. This isn't a quick fix or a shortcut to passive success. We're going to give you the proven system, the strategies, and the coaching, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to implement them. If you're the type to take action, make decisions, and commit to improving your leadership and team performance, then this is exactly what you need. To make sure this is the right fit, we've opened up our calendars for the next few days. Book a free 45-minute strategy call with me or with one of my senior members of the team, and we'll get to know your business, assess your team structure, and see if this system is right for you. This is a no-pressure, high-value call, but spaces are filling fast. So if you're serious about making a shift, and I would like you to book your session now, I am so looking forward to speaking with you.